Motivation is just what gets us to do what we want to do. And it's that simple. And the realization that I've come to is that everyone is motivated. Everyone is already motivated. And if you don't know the effects of motivation in your life, look at your life. Because you see, I think there's what we might call positive motivation and negative motivation. That is motivation that moves you to do things that add value to your life, to the lives of others, to the context within which you live. And then there's motivation that kind of extracts it, or at the very best is just neutral, normal, does nothing. You say, well, how can that be motivation? That's to get you moving. Well, a lot of people need to get moving or want to get moving to do nothing. Or they get so busy, they're moving in so many different directions that nothing results as a result of that. Now, no one can be motivated. And yet, I think everyone is self-motivated to some extent. You see, we always do what we would rather do than not do. And boy, would I argue with this at various times in my life. We always tend to do what we would rather do than not do. Every action that we take is some kind of a personal response or reaction to something that's going on in our life to fill some kind of a need or a desire. I remember a story that I heard about a young man. He was just out of school, and he was a smaller presence, a smaller frame, but a wiry young guy, and he wanted to go to work, and he heard that they were hiring down on the docks, that they needed men to load this particular ship. And so he went down and he talked to the head of the stevedores, and he says, I want to work. I hear you're looking for men to load this ship. And there were guys who were working there, and he says, yes, we are, but you'll never cut it. You're just too small and frail. And he says, I can handle anything that you have. And he kept bugging the boss, and the boss said, okay, you see that pile of anvils over there? Big anvil, you know what anvils are. And the big steel things that blacksmiths work on. He says, load those. You go over and start loading those. And he turned back to his clipboard, and the young man went off. And next thing you know, the boss hears this big splash. And he turns and he looks, and he noticed that the boy had fallen into the drink between the dock and the ship from the gangplank where he was loading. And he come bubbling up to the surface, and he says, throw me a line, help, throw me a line. And then blah, 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 he went down again, and he comes up again, and he says, so help me, either you throw me a line or I'm going to drop this damn anvil. That's motivation. And sometimes I think the point that we have, that we want to make with something like this, is that sometimes we can push ourselves to the point, be motivated to do something that grows out of an obsessive compulsive desire to accomplish things and compromise ourselves. And I'm not talking about that, but I think it's wonderful to be motivated, to have whatever that is in us that is some kind of a response to life to fulfill some kind of a need. How do we motivate ourselves positively? We know the negative motivations. We've seen those things. They're usually involved in avoidance and fear and that kind of stuff. But how do we motivate ourselves positively? Well, I think positive self-motivation begins with a transformation of our attitude, or a change of our attitude. And our attitude is a combination of various elements. It's what we think, what we feel, what we do, how we behave, how these all come together to give us an attitude that allows us to be clearly focused on something important in our life, and then to apply that. But in being motivated to do something, we need to be convinced, I think, that the benefits that are going to come as a result of what it is we want to experience far outweigh the price that we're going to pay for it. And that makes sense.